Welcome to the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jeffrey Bellomo, where we discuss all things estate planning and elder law. And, well, hey, anything else we want to talk about. Today, I have a dear friend of mine, Jay Metzbower. Jay, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing real well. Jay is an attorney in the office at Bellomo Associates, and I've known him here now for a couple years. Can't wait to talk a little bit about that. But before we get to the podcast itself, just a quick disclaimer as always. Remember, please do not take what you hear from this show or any other show for that matter to constitute legal advice. If you're looking for advice in a particular area, please contact an attorney who is licensed in the state that you reside in, who practices in the area that you are looking for advice in, and meet with them, and then and only then should you consider that legal advice and take action pursuant. This show and any other show is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. All right, now that we got that out of the way, at Bellomo and Associates, we offer free educational workshops in the areas of estate planning, crisis Medicaid planning, life care planning, special needs planning, and administration for probate and trust administration. Please check us out on the web at www.bellomoassociates.com. That's B as in boy, ELLOMO, associates.com, or give us a call at 717-845-5390, and we'll be able to give you a list of our upcoming workshops. And since yesterday was our financial and healthcare professional boot camp, I'll throw a plug in here. We have a professional boot camp coming in September, and it will be in York at Heritage Hills. So if you would like to attend the professional boot camp and you're a professional and you need credits, whether it be CFP, CPA, insurance, or in the healthcare side, RNs, certified nurse practitioners, family and marriage counselors, or any other healthcare related professional, we would love to see you. That was a lot of fun yesterday, so I figured I'd throw a plug in for the next boot camp. Always enjoy those. They're certainly a lot of fun, and you can get all of that information on our website at www.bellomoassociates.com. Now, I'm excited because one of the attorneys who does most of the workshops at Bellomo and Associates is with us today, and that is Jay Metzbower. So, Jay, tell us a little bit about yourself and your history.
Sure. I'm originally from the suburbs of Baltimore, the White Marsh, Perry Hall, and then eventually the Hartford County area. I moved up to Pennsylvania because at the time I was a municipal worker. I was a Hartford County Sheriff for 12 years. And like a lot of government employees, we moved to Pennsylvania because they won't tax your pension up here. And then also because the school systems are a little better for kids. So when my first son was born, I came up here for the better school system. I've always had a passion for helping people, so that was kind of what led me to the sheriff's office. I thought I'd be able to make a positive influence on the world, and kind of the same thing that brought me to elder law. I'm an avid Maryland sports fan, so Baltimore Ravens, Baltimore Orioles all the way. A motorcycle rider. I travel all over the country on a motorcycle. And then I've got two sons, Connor and Riley, who are 7 and 8 years old.
That's awesome. Yeah, so for those of you who know me, you know that I'm a fairly avid Pittsburgh fan. So it's always fun in the office. We are a house divided. I'd say we're pretty much 50-50 in the office as far as Steelers and Ravens. I love my Buccos, but, you can't really have a rivalry when you don't win. So anyway, go Orioles. But, maybe the Pirates will have a decent year one of these years. They start out hot, but
the Orioles have been
finish.
bad for 40 years, so we're due.
Yeah, and very good too, man. You guys are having a heck of a year, and I think they'll be able to sustain it. I'm not so sure about the Pirates. They started out hot, but that'll fall apart here soon, and then I'll be able to say, "See, I told you so." So. Anyway, so what made you decide it was time to head out of the sheriff's office, or was it just?
Well, unfortunately, two of my coworkers were killed in an incident in Bel Air, and obviously it was a big deal, and a lot of people left The two people that were killed both had children, young kids, and for me, I just said it. I didn't really like the job a whole lot to begin with. It can be
Okay.
depressing, and that was kind of like the final straw. Now I did do another year after that, but I think mentally I had left already.
Oh man, Jay, if I did know that, I forgot. I apologize, man. I wouldn't have asked that. I'm
No,
very
no,
sorry.
it's okay. Um,
Oof.
it definitely brought the county together. And then the one officer's son actually became an officer when he turned 18. So that was a huge thing, and he's got a ton of support from the
Wow.
agencies. So, obviously you can never replace a father, but it's like he gained 450 dads instead. So,
Oh, well, that's a cool story.
yeah.
Wow, very cool. And then, how did you meet us, Bellomo and Associates? Me? I mean, I know the story, but I figured it'd be a great story for you to tell.
Sure. So in law school, I felt a little bit lost as to what I wanted to do. I knew what I did not want to do. I didn't want to do criminal law, obviously,
Okay,
and I
right.
didn't. I
That
didn't
makes
want to
sense.
do, personal injury or medical malpractice or any of that stuff. So I had friends kind of putting feelers out for me to interview with people and just pick their brain a little bit. I met with a judge and talked to him a little bit about his history, and then they knew you, and they introduced me to you. And as soon as I met you and met the people in the firm, I met Jess Delp, which was a big help to me. I knew from then what my direction was. And so I just started taking all the elder law classes, estate planning classes, federal estate tax and gift tax, and just totally doubled down on this area of law.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that. I thought you already knew Jess. That is funny. The story in my head was that you already knew Jess, but you were introduced to us from someone in Baltimore who knew about us. Is that what you're saying?
Someone in York from the JCC who knew Jess Delp and knew you, but I met you and Jess Delp essentially at the same time, and
Okay,
just stayed really connected with Jess because obviously
right.
like that's kind of her role is to stay connected with the community.
And for those of you who don't know, Jess is the community outreach coordinator, which ties perfectly into what Jay just said. So, um, yeah, and I mean, my gosh, you attended almost every workshop we've done, boot camps. I think you even came out to, was it Dallas, Texas, for an event that we had there. I think I spoke at, and also we were attending a national organization. I mean, am I remembering that right?
That's right. Yeah, I went to the Taper in Dallas, and I went to every boot camp you and workshop that you offer. I was just lurking around until you would let me in.
Yeah, and man, it was been the most wonderful thing. I've said this to you privately, but the ability that you have to remember things and pick up on things, and I know it was all hard work. I mean, I get that you worked hard at it and that you were making it your mission, but extremely impressive. I've never seen anyone pick up on this area of the law as quickly as you have. Again, very intelligent, but also worked your butt off. So kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch for sure. So, all right. So, what was it? I mean, was there anything in particular like about the practice area that you liked, or was it just what you didn't want to do, and that happened to be the next best thing?
No, so like I said, I've always I've always had a passion for helping people, but I want to help people that are maybe disadvantaged, maybe don't get as much help as they probably should. Obviously, when a person gets into a car accident, lawyers are jumping at the opportunity to help them
True.
because there's a ton of money involved. For people that are getting older, there's not necessarily that like call to action to help them. Maybe, and there certainly should be. There should be a lot more help available to them. And then I did have my grandfather go into the nursing home while I was in law school. And sadly, he didn't live long from the time he went in the nursing home, maybe 45 days. But
Oh,
oddly enough, they had done a trust. And so they brought the trust document to me, and I got a chance to review it. So that was a big thing for me, um, you know, seeing that. And he was a Korean War veteran, so I
oh,
kind of thought that veterans benefits would be an avenue, and I quickly saw that that was not a thing. Our family owns a large orchard, and the acreage disqualified him for military benefits, which is silly to me that you could lose benefits for having too much dirt. But that was the situation there. But just really motivated me even more to help the elderly.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you're doing, I mean, weekly workshops. I mean, you're pretty much doing workshops on a really regular basis, particularly in the estate planning context. Tell us what you like about that, or what you're enjoying doing those.
I love the workshops. I think sometimes talking out loud about something helps you to even understand it better. So in the beginning, when I was doing the workshops, I was even thinking of new ideas mid-workshop, and then I'd have to, finish the workshop so that I could go pursue that idea that I came up with. And then people are bouncing ideas off of you. Well, what about this? What about that? And I always encourage people to ask questions, because you might mention something that's a huge benefit that maybe we haven't focused too much on, or we haven't really put a lot of thought into. Our specialty is Medicaid and the elderly, but the more I talk to people, blended families is a huge thing to use trusts for. Single parents who are concerned about the money they're leaving for juvenile children. So then that takes it from the whole spectrum of the opposite end. We were trying to help the elderly, but now maybe we're helping children, which I love kids. So that's big for me.
Yeah. Yeah, you're certainly an amazing father. I got to watch you a few times, and it's incredible, man. It's something that we aspire for. It's incredible. So, the workshops are something, and you're really good at making complicated things simple. It's enjoyable for me because, I've done it for a while, and you kind of get in I'll say a rut, not in a negative way, but right, you practice one way, you kind of get used to one thing, and then when you and Carrie came in, you both brought different spins to what about this and what about that? Oh crap, I never thought of that, right? You only know your perspective, you only know what you do, and you guys have definitely been able to kind of bring a different hey, well, let's try this, and why don't we use it for this purpose or that purpose? So that's friggin' awesome. It's really good. And Carrie Pugh, for those of you who don't know, Carolyn Pugh is the other attorney in the office with Jay and I, and you and Carrie have become very close, which is so great. I mean, I think it's awesome, and you guys bounce ideas off each other, and you guys are doing most of the workshops in the office on a regular basis. So that's incredible, that friendship that's occurred too as well.
Yeah, we're super close, and I think we complement each other well. I think that we tend to gravitate towards people that have a lot in common with us, and then you end up in this echo chamber. Whereas I try to do a little bit different. I try to gravitate towards people that are different than I am. So Carrie and I have similarities. Like, we both ride motorcycles, but she's a little more quiet, more reserved. I'm a little more out there and, talkative. And, she has that nature background with the horses and farms and stuff like that. And I focus on blended families and young kids because of my boys. So we definitely bring two different perspectives that mesh well.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you would probably say I'm out there with you, huh?
I like to say that I'm in the middle. You are the really outgoing person. She's the really reserved person, and I'm the perfect medium.
You're in the middle. I like that. So I'm out there is what you're telling me.
Yeah, you are really outgoing and really bubbly. I'm a happy medium.
That's a great way to say it. Oh, that's funny. So how did the love for motorcycles start? Like, I don't know that I ever heard this story.
It's so wild. My dad actually rode a motorcycle when I was a kid, and the only time I ever saw it, it was parked in the basement because my mom made him stop riding when I was born. Okay. So I never really knew him as a rider. But my uncle, my mom's youngest brother, is only like 12 years older than me because there's a bunch of kids, big Catholic farm family. Yeah. And he took me on the motorcycle when I was like 8, and I was hooked ever since. And my dad did everything he could to keep me from motorcycles, to not talk about motorcycles. He didn't want me to ride a motorcycle. I started collecting them when I was a teenager, the little models. I started wearing Harley hoodies and Harley shirts when I was like 15. As soon as I moved out of my parents' house, I bought a motorcycle, and everybody else gets them and they own them and they sit in their garage. I was putting 15 to 18,000 miles a year on a motorcycle. I mean, you just could not get me off of one,
Wow.
and that's never stopped. Now, obviously, I have my kids, and I'm constantly taking them around. So I rode less once I had kids, and you know, grow
Yeah.
up and be a little more safe, a little more responsible. So
Yeah.
I still ride when I can, but I've dialed it back since I
And
had
I
them.
remember, I believe you had an accident once too, if I recall.
I did. Actually, shortly before I had my kids, I was cut off by a minivan on the Baltimore Beltway, and I locked my brakes up to avoid hitting it. On a motorcycle, if you lock your brakes up, you go into like a uncontrollable skid, and I never recovered it. Oddly enough, the new motorcycle that I have now, had I had it then, I wouldn't have gotten in the accident. So Harleys have anti-lock brake systems now. So if the same thing occurred to me now, the ABS would kick in and I wouldn't go into that skid. So that was a big thing for me buying a new bike, a little safer.
Wow. I didn't realize bikes had that. Wow. I guess it makes sense. If you have it for cars, why can't you have it for bikes?
Oh,
Wow.
they're so advanced now. My bike has navigation, heated grips.
No way.
Yeah, it
Oh,
actually
that's
even
cool.
has a rain mode traction control if I'm caught out in the rain.
Wow. And you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that you've traveled all kinds of places on the motorcycle. I mean, you're using it as a
27
way to get around.
or yeah, 27 or 28 states now. It's a little over 100,000 miles lifetime.
Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, anything in particular that has surprised you about practice, or when people come and you're looking at other people's documents, or questions you're getting, or just anything? I mean, just anything surprised you a little bit from when you came in, what you were expecting?
I guess I just didn't realize that it's so unknown, all these situations, and the misunderstandings that people have is so widespread. People thinking that if you have a will that you don't have to go through probate, which you absolutely do. Um, not knowing that you can protect assets, not knowing that a will for a blended family is completely insufficient, because you either have to leave your assets to your spouse or to your children. Otherwise, you run the risk of your spouse disinheriting your biological children. So, just, and I think, you can just pass away and leave a mess and you don't ever realize you did that. And I think kind of that's the reason why all of this bad information and lack of knowledge continues for so long. And it makes me feel good to be able to let them know the possible ramifications.
We haven't had a chance to talk at all, yes, about the boot camp that we have recently, but that was actually the comment that I heard at the reception at the happy hour afterwards from several of the professionals, was almost exactly what you just said. That's what surprised them and what stood out for them, and also just a lot of bad information, misinformation that's out there, whether it be from other advisors or other accountants, or unfortunately sometimes attorneys. Right? We're not all knowing everything. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was shocking to me. Obviously, I met you while I was still in law school, so that gave me a really unique perspective. But even my professors, people who teach law to other people, don't fully understand what we do and the downsides of it. One of my estate planning professors was, you know, clueless on some of this stuff. So you're even getting next generation lawyers coming out with bad information.
Yeah.
So it's not just amongst the non-legal community. There's bad information amongst the legal community.
Yeah, I taught an LLM class recently, and it was a Medicaid and other government benefit programs, I think was the name of the title of the course that I taught, and there were students who actually would say verbally, "Wow, I actually asked that question to my professor in estate planning or in tax, and they said it can't be done. They said it's not something that's out there. It's not something that's able to be done, and this is a completely different class." And I said, "Yeah, this is the class that teaches you how to do it. Like that's the fun part." So I am not surprised to hear that. It was a different law school, obviously, that I was teaching the LLM program, and that you went to, but I'm sure it's all over the country. And I think that falls under what? If it's something you don't know, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah, and if you become a professor early on in your career, and then you just continue to teach and teach and teach, you're just digging your heels in to whatever it was you learned in 1979, and, and the law has changed and the world has moved on, and you're still stuck in 1979, which is what I experienced with a lot of my professors. Some of them were like my grandparents' age, and they hadn't kept up with all the things that we've realized that can be done since the 90s and 2000s, really when nursing home costs became a bigger concern.
yeah, yeah, and I just have found that over and over again. And when we bought a couple practices locally who were estate planning attorneys, it also dawned on me that most people use a form, and you ride that form. I mean, you create that form, and that's your form for your career. And I mean, I actually found it where there were forms from 1982 that are the exact same forms that are being used when they retired in 2019. And I mean, we're getting 4 or 5 updates a year on our software program, and our documents getting updated. And it's just a different way to practice. It's not good. It's not bad. That's just how they learned, and that's what they did. And that's just became the norm for them. But to us, that's like completely foreign.
Sure. I think if you're using a form that's fill in the blank, then you're replaceable. A form that's
Right.
strictly fill in the blank, someone could download off the internet. The value to you and I is that we have these outside of the box ideas, and we can tailor things uniquely to a client. A fill in the blank form that makes us useless.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And isn't it funny that that's how kind of the profession was for so many years, and honestly for a lot of firms still currently. I don't know if I've told you this story, but I had a client come in, and it was a special needs trust, and the cover letter was very clear. We created a special needs trust for your child who has special needs. We want your child to remain on government benefits after you're gone. So we have created this special needs trust for your family, and attached is the copy. So I'm looking at the document, and it was absolutely not a special needs trust. It was a support trust. It was a health, education, maintenance, and support standard in the document. And that is not, it does not meet the special needs trust language in Pennsylvania pursuant to the Lang decision. And so I'm reading it. So I called one of my buddies who's a partner at that law firm, and I said, hey, man, I got this cover letter from a client. I got this trust, and it's definitely not a special needs trust. And he's like, no, that's not possible. I know people on the team know how to do those. And I said, I'm not judging anything. I'm just telling you what I'm looking at. I'm just looking at a piece of paper that doesn't meet the standard. And he called me back and said that what happened was a paralegal accidentally saved over their special needs trust with a tax trust, and didn't mean to. It certainly wasn't, intentional. But there's another downside of a form, right? I mean,
Right.
if you have a form and somebody accidentally saves over it, and I said, well, hopefully it's not, many. And he said, well, we suspect it's probably over, hundreds. And I was like, oh, could you imagine trying to go back to figure that out? Like, oh.
Yeah, that's a disaster, and if you don't understand it yourself, I don't know how they'd even recover from that, because they wouldn't know how. Their one source of all their knowledge is gone. So
Right.
that's why it's so important to know it yourself. And special needs trusts to me are another really big thing that I enjoy, being able to provide that service and look at. I know a lot of people with autism that runs in their family, and you just don't realize the ways that you can harm them by leaving them money in a way that actually is worse than not receiving the money.
Yeah, and I think that also is something we touch on. A lot of professionals will advise, avoid probate, beneficiary, designate everything. And, while we may agree that avoiding probate is a good thing, and avoiding probate might be something that you should do, you got to do it in a way that isn't going to hurt your family members. And, you leave something outright to someone on benefits, and they're going to lose their government benefits, and that's not what's in the best interest of the person or of the family. So, the one little neat tidbit that most people probably don't know is over the course of my 20 years, I've presented a lot. I've done a lot of different speakings nationally, whether it be teaching programs or just standalone sessions or doing boot camps or doing workshops. Or there's only one person that I know in the entire world that has heard every one of them, and it's you. It is fascinating to me that you have actually, I believe you've listened to every single thing that I've ever done. Is that a fair statement?
And probably twice.
I'm not sure if I should say I'm sorry, but it's crazy, and you retain it too, which is even nuttier. I mean, over the course of years, I've done a lot of standalone sessions for national organizations, and most of them I did once and then never thought about it again. I never heard it again. And you've listened to those, and you know those as well. So it's there's not many people that know all that stuff. So that's really cool that you took the time to do that, man.
Yeah, and I remember being like, hey, but that one time you said such and such, and you're like, I did?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all those little details I key in on and then come back with questions, from 10, 15 years ago. But it sparked some really good conversations. So.
Yeah. And the one conversation I'll end with before we end the podcast, just for the people out there who have been hearing about the federal estate tax and possibly or I shouldn't even say possibly, in 2026 under the current rules, the federal estate tax is going to go from $13.61 million a person to $5 million plus inflation. Based upon experts, people far smarter than us, they're predicting somewhere around $7 million a person is what the federal estate tax limit's going to be. But Jay, just give a quick synopsis about why, for most people, that really doesn't mean anything, and it really doesn't factor at all, and most people shouldn't be concerned with it.
Sure. Well, I'm one of the few attorneys, I think, other than patent attorneys, that have a heavy math background. So I love math. Most attorneys hate math. But I was kind of crunching the numbers, and to really do anything to prepare for this change in the tax laws, you'd have to be able to take advantage of the current number being 13.6 million. So the only way you could, quote unquote, take advantage of it would be to try to give away a large sum of money, more than what the number's going to be when it drops. So essentially you'd be giving away more than $8 million now to get it out of your estate, just to take advantage of that larger exemption. And the number of people that can afford to give away $13-14 million to try to take advantage of that larger cap is almost none, because you wouldn't just have to have $13 million. You'd have to have $13 million that you could give away with enough left over to still live comfortably for the rest of your life. Yeah. So the more we looked at it, there's just not a whole lot that you can do to even take advantage of that change.
And as we always say, or at least I say, I don't know if you do, but a gift is non-take-backable. So, once you give the money away, whether it be an outright gift or whether it be in a trust that you don't control, a non-grantor trust, in both instances, once it's gone, in order for it to be a completed gift, you can't have any say over it, no incidence of ownership over it. So to be giving up 11, 12, 13 million, man, you better be in a pretty good position.
Sure, and you don't know with inflation, $16 million is a ton of money, but if you give away 14 million of it and you try to live on the remaining 2, when you're used to having 16, yeah, that's a tough sell. I don't know that I'd convince many people to go that route, just to save on estate taxes.
No, and we had a client recently who. The company doesn't matter, but a national company, the advisor was telling them, you should take advantage of this. And it was literally, I think, like a week after you and I spoke, and you and I had this long conversation about this topic. And I said, well, I don't remember, it's been a few years since he and I sat down, but I said, I don't remember you having significant wealth. to that extent. I mean, I guess that's relative, but and he was like, "Oh yeah, we got like 6 million," and so then I had to explain why I think that the person from that company was not really giving great advice, because you have to be able to give more than what it's coming back down to actually take advantage of it. So I definitely think as next year comes, we're going to have a lot more people asking these questions, and that's why I'm trying on podcasts to get the information out there and to say it in for our maintenance families in the Red Wagon Club weekly at the Your Legal Hour, reminding people of that so that we don't get a rush of hundreds of people next year saying, I want to do this, and how much money do you have? 3 million. Well, okay, well, a lot of money, but certainly not when you're looking at needing to have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 million to really take advantage of it. So yeah,
sure.
awesome.
And the only people that I've talked to that even come remotely close to that, say, $7-8 million limit are usually widows and widowers. And so they get the credit from the amount that their spouse didn't use. So they really have 14 million, 15 million maybe to work with, and they're not going to have an estate tax issue either. Right. So at first glance, it looks like an individual with $8 million, but it's really not, because they get the credit from their deceased spouse.
Yeah.
So,
well, as I fully expected, this went fast. I had no doubt it would. I certainly love talking with you. And for my listeners, I really appreciate you being here today on the Red Wagon and Estate Planning and Elder Law Show with me, Jeff Bellomo, and my guest, Jay Metzbower, who is an attorney at Bellomo Associates. So, Jay, thanks for being with us. To my listeners, thank you so much for being here. And until next time, we'll see you real soon.